House Democrats are preparing to take their Epstein investigation directly to Palm Beach, Florida, the scene of Jeffrey Epstein's crimes and the home of President Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort. Frustrated with what they're calling a Justice Department cover-up, Democratic lawmakers on the House Oversight Committee are planning an unprecedented shadow field hearing to hear directly from survivors, local law enforcement, and witnesses who were there when Epstein's crimes first came to light. This comes as Attorney General Pam Bondi faces blistering criticism today at a House Judiciary hearing for her handling of the Epstein files. Today, we're breaking down why Democrats are going to Florida, what they hope to uncover, and why this represents a constitutional showdown over who controls congressional investigations. First, let's explain what a shadow field hearing actually means, because this is a rarely used congressional tactic. Normally, when Congress wants to hold a field hearing, a hearing outside of Washington, D.C., in a location relevant to the investigation, the majority party controls the process. The committee chairman decides where to hold it, who testifies, what questions get asked, and how the hearing is run. But House Democrats are currently in the minority. Republicans control the House and therefore control the Oversight Committee. Republican Chairman James Comer gets to decide what investigations happen and where hearings are held. So what do you do if you're in the minority and the majority won't hold the hearing you think is necessary? You hold a shadow hearing. A shadow hearing is an unofficial event organized by minority party members. It has no official congressional standing. Witnesses aren't under oath. There are no subpoena powers, but it allows minority party members to gather testimony, conduct interviews, and generate public pressure on issues the majority is ignoring or downplaying. Democrats have done this before on issues like voting rights and climate change. Republicans did it when they were in the minority during the Trump-Russia investigations. It's a legitimate legislative tool, though it's usually a sign of deep dysfunction and partisan warfare. In this case, House Oversight Democrats are preparing to hold their shadow hearing in Palm Beach, Florida, specifically to hear from Epstein survivors and to investigate what they're calling a systematic cover-up by the Trump Justice Department. Palm Beach isn't just any location, it's ground zero for the Epstein scandal. Jeffrey Epstein's mansion at 358 El Barrio Way in Palm Beach was where many of his crimes occurred. It's where he sexually assaulted teenage girls, some as young as 14 years old. It's where he ran his trafficking operation with Ghislaine Maxwell. And it's where the Palm Beach Police Department first investigated him in 2005. Palm Beach is also where President Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort is located, less than 2 miles from Epstein's former mansion. Trump and Epstein were social friends in the 1990s and early 2000s, partying together in Palm Beach and New York. A 2019 FBI document that just surfaced in the Epstein files reveals that in 2006, Trump called then Palm Beach Police Chief Michael Ryder to say, "Thank goodness you're stopping him. Everyone has known he's been doing this." That call is now central to Democratic investigations because it suggests Trump knew about Epstein's crimes decades before they became public, and yet Trump socialized with him for years. But Palm Beach is also significant because it's where the original criminal investigation was sabotaged. In 2007, then U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta, who later served as Trump's labor secretary, signed off on a secret plea deal that allowed Epstein to plead guilty to minor state prostitution charges instead of facing federal sex trafficking charges. That plea deal, negotiated in secret without input from survivors, allowed Epstein to serve just 13 months in a county jail with work release privileges. He left the facility 6 days a week for work at his office. Survivors and their attorneys have called it one of the most unjust plea deals in American history. Representative Lois Frankel and Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz, both Democrats from South Florida, have been pushing for years to investigate that plea deal. They've asked, who pressured prosecutors to go easy on Epstein? Which powerful people intervened on his behalf? Why were survivors kept in the dark? Palm Beach County records released in July 2024 showed that prosecutors had heard testimony about Epstein sexually assaulting 2 teenage girls before they gave him the sweetheart deal. They knew what he'd done, and they let him off anyway. Democrats believe the answers to their questions are in Palm Beach, in local police files, in prosecutor records, and most importantly, in the testimony of survivors who were there. So why are Democrats going around the official process to hold a shadow hearing? Because they believe the Trump Justice Department is actively covering up Epstein's crimes and protecting powerful people who were involved. The evidence for this claim is substantial. First, the botched file release. The Epstein Files Transparency Act, passed by Congress and signed by Trump in November 2025, required the Justice Department to release all Epstein-related files by December 19, 2025. The DOJ missed that deadline by more than a month, finally releasing files in waves through January 30, 2026. When they did release files, it was a disaster. The Justice Department published dozens of unredacted nude images showing young women or possibly teenagers with their faces visible. Attorneys for survivors found that at least 43 victims' full names were exposed, including more than 24 who were minors when they were abused. Some names appeared over 100 times. Home addresses were visible in keyword searches. On February 1st, attorneys representing more than 200 alleged victims asked federal judges to order the immediate takedown of the Justice Department's Epstein Files website, calling the release the single most egregious violation of victim privacy in one day in United States history. But here's the suspicious part. While victims' names and photos were left unredacted, the names of powerful men appeared to be carefully scrubbed. Representative Jamie Raskin, a Democrat who reviewed unredacted files on February 9th, said he saw lots of examples of over-redactions, including names redacted that should not have been. President Donald Trump's name was redacted in multiple places where it shouldn't be, Raskin said. Representative Ro Khanna went on PBS NewsHour and said the files had been scrubbed to protect elite, powerful men. On February 10th, Khanna went to the House floor and read aloud 6 names of men who appeared in the unredacted Epstein files, names that had been redacted in the public release. Those names weren't victims, they were associates of Epstein, who the Justice Department apparently wanted to protect. Second, the incomplete release. The Justice Department claims it released over 3 million pages and says that's all the files that exist. But multiple reports indicate the full Epstein files consist of over 6 million pages. Where are the other 3 million pages? Representative Thomas Massey, a Republican from Kentucky who has been pushing for full transparency, said after reviewing unredacted files, they're breaking the law. He and Khanna, a Democrat from California, have formed a rare bipartisan alliance demanding answers. Third, suspicious redactions in the files that were released. For example, a draft federal indictment was included in the files that showed prosecutors were preparing to charge Epstein with conspiracy to procure females under the age of 18 to travel to his Palm Beach property to engage in lewd conduct with those minor females. But the names of Epstein's co-conspirators in this draft indictment completely redacted. Representative Deborah Ross, a Democrat from North Carolina and member of the House Judiciary Committee, said this is just a big cover-up, and if there's anything that made that clear, it was the most recent release. All of this came to a head today, February 11th, when Attorney General Pam Bondi testified before the House Judiciary Committee. Democrats went after Bondi hard. They demanded to know why so many victims' names were left unredacted, while powerful men's names were scrubbed. They asked why the Justice Department missed the December 19th deadline. They questioned whether Bondi was protecting President Trump and his associates. Bondi defended her department, saying redaction errors affected about 0.001% of all materials, and that the department moved quickly to fix mistakes when notified. But that explanation rang hollow to Democrats, who pointed out that victims' attorneys had provided the Justice Department with a list of 350 victims on December 4th to ensure their names would be redacted, and the DOJ failed to even do a basic keyword search. Before the hearing, Sky Roberts, the brother of Virginia Giuffre, one of Epstein's most prominent victims, who died by suicide in April 2025, held a news conference flanked by Democratic members of Congress. Roberts called the Trump administration's handling of Epstein's case a failure. He said the names of certain powerful people were redacted in the files, while some information about survivors was left unredacted. He demanded accountability. Epstein survivors had submitted 15 specific questions they wanted Bondi to answer. Among them, why were co-conspirators' names redacted? Why weren't more people charged? What is the Justice Department doing to identify and prosecute everyone involved in Epstein's trafficking operation? Bondi largely dodged those questions, claiming ongoing investigations and grand jury secrecy rules prevented her from answering. But Democrats weren't satisfied. Representative Robert Garcia, the ranking Democrat on the Oversight Committee, said we should hold Bondi in contempt and depose Trump. That last part is crucial. Democrats want to question President Trump under oath about his relationship with Epstein and what he knew about Epstein's crimes. Which brings us to the shadow field hearing Democrats are planning in Palm Beach. According to sources familiar with the planning, Democrats on the House Oversight Committee are organizing an event in Palm Beach within the next 2 weeks. The exact date and location haven't been finalized, but the goal is clear: hear directly from survivors and local officials without Republican interference. Here's who Democrats plan to invite: Epstein survivors, multiple women who were sexually assaulted by Epstein in Palm Beach as teenagers. These survivors have never had the chance to tell their stories to Congress in an official hearing because Chairman Comer has refused to hold one. Michael Reiter, the former Palm Beach police chief who investigated Epstein in 2005-2006 and who received that phone call from Trump in 2006, Reiter has said publicly that he felt the federal investigation was sabotaged by powerful people protecting Epstein. Local prosecutors, former Palm Beach County prosecutors who worked on the Epstein case and can testify about the pressure they faced to go easy on him. Victims' attorneys, lawyers like Brad Edwards and Brittany Henderson, who have represented hundreds of Epstein survivors and can speak to the Justice Department's failures in protecting their clients' identities. Local journalists, reporters from the Palm Beach Post who have been investigating the Epstein case for decades and have uncovered documents through public records requests that the federal government tried to keep secret. Democrats are also considering inviting Alex Acosta, Trump's former labor secretary, who signed off on the 2007 plea deal as U.S. Attorney. Acosta has refused for years to explain why he gave Epstein such a lenient deal. He resigned from the Trump cabinet in 2019 after the Epstein scandal resurfaced, but he's never testified under oath about his decisions. The shadow hearing won't have subpoena power, so Acosta and others can refuse to attend, but the public pressure of being invited and declining could be significant. Representatives Frankel and Wasserman Schultz, who have been leading this fight for years, are expected to co-chair the shadow hearing. They'll be joined by other Democrats from Florida and from the Oversight and Judiciary Committees. The hearing will be held at a public venue in Palm Beach, possibly at a hotel conference room or community center, and will be open to the press and public. Survivors will have the opportunity to tell their stories on camera, generating media coverage that puts pressure on the official Republican-controlled committees to act. This shadow hearing represents more than just political theater. It's a constitutional question about the power of congressional minorities to conduct oversight. The Constitution gives Congress broad investigative powers, but traditionally, those powers are exercised by the majority party. Minority party members can ask questions at hearings, but they can't compel witnesses, issue subpoenas, or set the agenda. Shadow hearings test that assumption. Democrats are essentially saying, if the majority won't do its constitutional duty to investigate, we'll do it ourselves without official authority. Republicans will likely denounce the Palm Beach shadow hearing as a partisan stunt. They'll point out that the House Oversight Committee has already subpoenaed Ghislaine Maxwell, who pleaded the Fifth on February 9th, subpoenaed Bill and Hillary Clinton, who have agreed to testify, and is conducting its own investigation. But Democrats counter that the Republican investigation is focused on Democrats like Bill Clinton while protecting Republicans like Trump and his Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, who admitted under oath on February 10th that he and his family had lunch with Epstein on Epstein's private Caribbean island in 2012. The shadow hearing also puts pressure on Attorney Bondi. If survivors testify in Palm Beach about Justice Department failures and cover-ups, it generates news coverage that makes it harder for Bondi to claim everything is fine. And it creates a record. Even though shadow hearing testimony isn't under oath and doesn't have official congressional standing, it can be used by journalists, prosecutors, and civil attorneys investigating Epstein's co-conspirators.